Hello and welcome to the Heresy Lodge. I am your host, Dylan Cooper. Oh, fuck. And my constant co-host is here, too.
Gavin Franklin. As soon as we get on video, shit gets weird.
Yeah, I don't know how to react. So, speaking of video, guys, I mentioned... Maybe I didn't mention before. I mentioned in our Discord and on Twitter, but we have a YouTube now. I didn't put any of our older episodes on. I started with the Graham McNeil interview, and all of our episodes from here on out will also be on YouTube. So if you're a YouTuber, I guess that's what you would call yourself. I don't know. Like and subscribe to our shit. That'd be cool.
And if you just like the sound of our voices, stay away from YouTube. Maybe it'll ruin it for you.
Yes, you might see a slightly chunky man over here and a giraffe.
Yeah.
So that's what we look like.
Super nerdy dudes.
Yeah,
for sure.
that's us. But we are back to our regular scheduled shit. We will be reviewing Prospero Burns here. But before we get too deep into that, alcohol, the most important part of all of our episodes. Gavin, what did you bring for us today?
This is actually pretty good. It's Centerpoint Brewing Company. It is a blood orange IPA, and I really liked it.
Yeah, Centerpoint's good. They are in Indianapolis. Have you been to their brewery? Because I have.
I'm not.
It's pretty cool. I'm pretty sure this brewery is like based. I think it was created by It's a really prestigious college in Indianapolis. Big for tech. Come on.
In Indianapolis?
Yes.
Not Rose-Hulman?
Rose-Hulman's it.
that's definitely not in Indianapolis.
Really?
Yeah, it's in Fort Wayne.
Ah, fuck. Well, it's all the same shit. Anyway, so Rose-Hulman, I'm pretty sure this was founded by some alumni that started just making beer.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But they're solid. It's not like a super big place, but it's really cool. I actually had to go there for like work once.
Yeah, I should try it out.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the actual breweries.
Yeah, there's a distillery right next door to it too, which is I know you're not a gin drinker, and neither am I. But they actually have a really good gin.
Gin is like the only time I would ever drink gin is in a mixed drink. I had a really bad experience with gin, and it was like the lowest low shelf gin possible. Like you put a drop in your mouth, and then you need to like drink a river in order to be rehydrated.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds like gin.
That's pretty much how it was. But other than that, I know we have the YouTube channel. There's still the same ways to get a hold of us, though.
Yes, we still have our email, of course. If you want to shoot the shit with us, just chat, ask us questions. We actually had an interesting question that came up. It came after the interview, but he was like, if you guys ever talk to any of the other interviewer or authors, you should ask them if to assign a Primarch to each of the other authors and like how like their personalities match. And I thought that was super fucking cool.
We got a lot of feedback on the Primarch ranking list.
Yeah, that was like the most like interaction like I've ever had on Twitter and like Facebook, because I put them on both of those, and I've had so many conversations about them.
Did you have ours on there as well?
Yes.
Well,
so the way I have it listed is like some people were like, I didn't know Gavin was a fucking Primarch. And I was like, well, fucking obviously, guys. Look at him. He looks like a giraffe.
Yeah, so I like looking back at his list, I really do. And this is no offense to Graham anyway. I think he's a little biased on some of his Primarchs.
Someone mentions, like, I can't believe he has Gilman so high up there. And it's like, well, he is an Ultramarine fanboy.
Exactly. Like, I really think a lot of it is who his, like, favorite Primarchs are, which... Like, I'm guilty of, too. I fucking love Vulcan, and I put him really high up there for no reason.
Well, the more I, like, hear about Vulcan, the more, like, OP he sounds.
He's
just super compassionate.
Yes.
And that's his, like, only downfall.
Exactly. Yeah, I can't wait to read more about it. I'm really pumped to finally, after Outcast Dead, get to Deliverance Lost. I'm, like, really excited.
So, in the... what's the next book called? It's
Age of Darkness.
Yeah, Age of Darkness. There's actually salamanders in there.
Oh, I can't fucking
Yeah, there's
wait.
actually a story of a salamander who like survived his Fun 5, and there's an Ultramarine, and they're on this like random like planet. It's pretty interesting. I think you'll like it.
All right.
And it talks about like seeing Vulcan get taken down at his Fun 5, and he's like PTSD. What? It's really cool.
Okay, I'm super fucking pumped. That sounds like really good. So We're not even here to talk about Age of Darkness.
Yep.
We're here to talk about Prospero Burns.
Yes.
So right off the bat, I like this book.
Yeah, it's good.
There's nothing wrong with this book. It is told so differently than any other book so far. Like, the writing style is so much different.
It's very different, and it's nothing like I was expecting.
Exactly. Like, I was 100% sure this was just going to be
the Space Wolf version of Thousand Suns.
Which it was not.
Not even close.
Like,
we had Prospero for
50.
60 pages, maybe.
50, 60 pages, yeah. It's literally like the third part of the book is like, it's less than that even.
Yeah, and it's not even from like their point of view, it's of a human's point of view.
Yeah. So first off, and I like this. I like this / didn't like it. So every Horus Heresy book that we've seen so far has been like told from like 19 different perspectives, and you get to learn the characters through their thoughts and their actions. None of that. We have 2 character perspectives. The first character perspective is Fifth, which is in the first like 12 pages.
Yep.
After that, it is all Kasper Hawser.
Fuck. I forgot to research more about him for the Lingen. Damn it.
Well, the book kind of tells us a bit about the story.
Yes, it does.
But it was a little confusing in general. And he also has 3 names.
Yes.
Yeah. So Kasper Hawser, he goes by Kasper Hawser, and then he also goes by another name, which is like, does it even say what his name is?
It was like something Earn something or something like that, and it was supposed to be, fuck, what was this whole thing?
So I guess we can explain the names as we come to the names.
Yeah, let's do that.
So
because names are important in this story.
The way this book works is you get Kasper Hawser, he's talking about his perspective in the Space Wolves, and he also like goes back to his past, because Kasper Hawser is actually like a really fucking important character.
Yes.
To this whole thing.
Yep.
To the Thousand Sons as well. To the book Thousand Sons. It's like insanely important.
Mm-hmm.
Because like Kasper Hawser is the other half of like the chaos fuckery.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
It was so fucking out of nowhere too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I guess we can just start off like how the book starts is on Fenris.
Mm-hmm.
And this was kind of my first surprise, because when Kasper Hawser is found by the natives there, they're still living in like the Stone Age.
Yeah, and then like, but it's weird. So like, when we hear about Fenris, it's supposed to be this like, it's like a shitty planet, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like I imagine Alaska. Sorry, Alaskans.
Yeah.
But like it's like just frozen. It's shit, and like we have like random tribes still there, and like I like how I imagine is like there weren't like tribes left at that point. Like I always imagined like it was just like the Space Wolves living there, and that was it.
Yeah. In my mind, I'm thinking of like Caliban. Right? When the Imperium came to Caliban, it was very detailed that the entire world changed.
Yeah.
Where it seems on Fenris, like,
nothing really changed, because, like, it was like they, like, the tribes, like, didn't even know what the fucking Astartes was.
Yeah, like, the Space Wolves exist, and the Astartes exist on Fenris, but the rest of the world doesn't even know about them.
Which makes no fucking sense to me.
It's very strange. I don't know how they, like, match those things up, because Fifth, the character that Kasper meets in the beginning, he is like mind blown by the Astartes. Yeah. Like you said, I had no idea what they were, and then he gets told about not only the Astartes but like science.
Yeah, like fucking all kinds of shit. He goes from fucking knowing like they are literally just
they're like living in the like I imagine like the wildlings.
Yeah,
from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, kind of like that. Like literally like actual like Vikings.
Yeah, that's what they literally are.
Because I mean, they even have like sailboats, and like the leader has like the biggest boat.
Yeah. So when Kasper Hawser comes down, he's seen as a bad star, right? Because his whatever he was coming down and crashed.
Yeah.
So we later find out that he was supposed to be going to the Astartes stronghold. So what we know is Kasper had requested access to the Astartes stronghold. They granted him access, and then he was shot down on his way and crash landed in the middle of Fenris, where he was found by the Ascamani tribe. And there's not a lot about the Ascamani tribe. They're just the people that found him. But there were two neighboring tribes that believed that the bad star was a bad omen.
Yeah.
And therefore they had to kill the Ascamani and the bad star right out.
Which is just like fucking crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine you see, like, say it's like us, like right now, a fucking UFO crashes like right next to my house.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna be like, holy fuck, we should kill that. I'm like, holy fuck, look at that thing.
Call the police. Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's really like that's just they look at it as a symbol or a sign.
Yeah, and like
ritualistic.
And then like it like shows up later too. Like the Astartes even still are like, he's a bad star. Like they don't want him to be on like the same ship as them.
Yeah, the culture's still there, but they take a lot less from it, right? They're not like, oh, he's a bad star, murder him. They're like,
they're like, I don't want him on my ship though.
Your ship crashed. Bad omen.
Yeah,
like bad
it's like
luck.
bad luck. Yeah,
yeah, not
it's
necessarily
like, fucking, like you're breaking a mirror, you see the fucking black cat, whatever.
Exactly. So the these two neighboring tribes, they go and murder all the Ascamani, except for like a group of 5 of them. They leave with the Uplander, which is what they're called in Kasper Hawser at this time. And this whole thing is told from the point of view of the 5th.
Yep.
And they escape with him, and he goes across the ice. They succeed. They're like running away, and they get like basically caught up with. And all of them die except for Fifth and this other guy.
Yeah, like they're like going towards. It's supposed to be like another like. I don't want to call it a colony. Yeah, another tribe.
They're like an ally.
Yeah, and as they're going, the other tribe has, is it red sails, which means they're there to kill, and they're like, fuck.
Yeah.
And like one of them just like instantly gets like impaled. Or some shit.
So it gets like So basically what happens is they're fleeing one tribe, they're going to their allies. Oh wait, the allies are evil too. So they like hang a right to try and get away from both of them, and they end up like accidentally going too close to the shore.
Yeah.
Which is where one of the tribes like fishing villages was, and these people are just like mowing them down with arrows, and one of them gets speared.
Yeah.
Then the ship flips.
As this is happening too, we have like a flashback of Kasper Hawser, and it's like they're in this like tomb. And there's the statues, and fuck, what's his name? Maven, right?
Yes, that sounds right.
I think it's Maven. I guess I have the book in front of me as well.
It's something. It is Naveed.
Yeah, Naveed is like telling him like, hey, we shouldn't destroy this. Look at it. And Kasper Hawser's like, why are we fucking looking at this? And he's like, just look at it and you'll fucking figure it out. And he finally is like, it's the eyes. He's like, yes. What do the eyes represent, class? Like he's like being almost like condescending to him. And like the whole thing, it talks about how like the eyes are supposed to be like watching something. And as
guarding.
Guarding. And as we flash back, there's like, into like, you know, current time or whatever, there are like heads on pikes staring at something. And he's like, the eyes, they're protecting something.
Yeah. So throughout the book, we get these flashbacks. Whenever something reminds Kasper of something, or it's almost like an intuition that he has a flashback to something that occurred in his past. And that flashback then immediately relates to something that's happening in the current time. And so the first flashback, like you said, it's with his colleague Naveed. So here we get like a bit of a glimpse into what Kasper Hawser is.
Yep.
So Kasper Hawser, he was an archaeologist, essentially. He started a program called the Conservatorium, which was a way to catalog all of the history of the Imperium during the Great Crusade. Not just like during the Great Crusade, but like they captured human history.
Yeah. And his biggest goal too was, and you find out this like later on too, is like he asked like this big question, is like, why did the Age of Strife happen?
Yeah.
And like his whole thing is like, we're doing all these things, but we aren't trying to figure out what caused our downfall before all this. Like, that's what I'm here for. Like, I want to find out why the Age of Strife happened. I want to prevent it. I want to, almost like the Remembrancers is like, I want to also remember like what is happening now too. But we have to start in the past so that we can figure out what the hell's happening.
Yeah, and kind of at the beginning too, we also get this debate on why aren't you a part of the Remembrancers?
Yeah.
You know, he's like, this isn't to like glorify the Great Crusade. Like, we want to catalog the history, and we know that this was supported by the Emperor. This was supported by Malcador. And
yeah, Malcador actually is like pretty like prominent in it. Like, he wants this to happen. Like, he actually fully backs it.
Yeah, and we know that at this time, Kasper Hawser is really old. It's like in his 80s.
Yeah, in his 80s.
And
which makes me fucking blows my mind that his fucking ship gets shot out of the sky, fucking crash lands, and this 80-year-old man's still fucking alive.
Yeah, so he definitely has like a punctured lung of some sort, or a broken rib cage. When the ship that they escape on crash lands, he has 2 broken legs.
He's a fucking just there.
He's all fucked up. So the question is, you know, the way I love the way this book kind of does it is in the beginning, it's like, okay, I came to Fenris because it was one of the places that piqued my interest.
Yep.
And that's just what I wanted to do. And
but at the same time, we also have flashbacks where he's talking and he's like, maybe I'll go to like Caliban.
Yeah. Like, he had all these things in
the space wolves are not mentioned at all.
Yeah. So in his mind, he's like, I came to Fenris because I just thought I would go to Fenris.
Yeah, I think he mentioned Caliban and maybe Prospero.
Yeah, he does mention Fenris in the beginning because he has a flashback to talking to Carol Slenderman about Fenris.
Yeah, and the whole thing about there's no wolves on Fenris.
Yeah, which is interesting. I now understand the
I can't wait till we get to that so we can talk more about it.
Yeah. So from there, the remaining Ascami fight to the last man to try and protect the Outlander, Kasper Hau. And only 2 of them are left alive. It's Fifth and a guy named Bron.
Yes, Bron.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this Astartes comes out of the snow and just
starts there's like a storm behind them. They keep talking about how like, the storm's getting closer. Like Fifth and Bron are just fucking up 2 tribes by themselves, and it's really badass how like these 2 normal guys is just sitting there with a fucking axe and just mowing down these tribe people.
They're being badasses for sure.
Yeah, and like at one point, like the enemy leader starts like yelling something. And Kasper Hawser's like, hey, carry me over there. And he starts fucking like talking to them like in their language with his
translator.
Yeah. And he's basically just saying like the same shit right back to him.
Yeah, he's trying to because they think he's some sort of demon thing.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm gonna summon the demons on you, and they all freak out, and that's when the Astartes shows up behind.
The storm behind them, it's like snowing, and this motherfucking Astartes comes up and just fucks up everything.
Yeah. And we get to know the Astartes as Bear, which we'll talk about later. But Bear was the one...
I just want to stop you real quick right here. When you were reading it and we talked about it in the preview, did you figure out it was Bear?
So I didn't figure out it was Bear till like the last fight. And I was like, that's why it's not working, I bet.
Yep.
And that's what it was. I didn't even think about it in the Council on Ikea scene because I was more like, what the fuck is happening? Yeah.
Yep.
So I was like, I was confused because it didn't make any sense to me, and then it all like made sense at the end. So so Bear comes. He was the one that shot Kasper Hawser out of the sky.
Yep. Fucking Bear.
He was like, oops, my bad.
He was like, I fucked up, so I'm here to fix it.
Which resulted in the murder of like an entire tribe. But you know,
it's Fenris. They're like, yeah, whatever. They shouldn't be there anyway.
Exactly. So Bear gets away with that. So then the last thing Kasper Hawser sees is he gets his eye augment removed, because I guess
So like the way like the Space Wolves believe like you shouldn't have any like fake parts basically. Like,
so they must love the Mechanicum. That's
Yes.
the only thing I was thinking. Is like, so there's not a single Mechanicum person on Fenris. So it's just
There
not
can't
allowed.
be. No way.
Yeah, so they rip out his augmetic eye, and then he goes to sleep for like 100 years.
I don't know. It's 19 years.
Yes, but it's 19 Fenrisian
True,
years.
true,
And
nice
he
Fenris
said
years.
that was like 8 times or something the amount.
No, maybe I don't fucking
Yeah.
remember.
So at the end, it was, I think it was something like 70 something years in Earth years that he was
Sure.
asleep.
Whatever. It's all irrelevant. The fucking Great Crusade's 250 years, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So at this point, the priests, they're like psychers as well. I don't know. There's like medicine priests.
Oh, you mean the ones that like changed him?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they were rune priests. I don't remember what the fuck they were called.
They were something, but they medically altered Kasper Hawser because he was dying. There was no way to save him, and like in my mind, I was like, why? Why
See,
just let the dude die?
When he like woke up, I thought it was Astartes.
I thought so too. Although no, I did not because he was 80. So I was assuming he was.
Well, see,
something,
that's why I was like really fucking confused.
I thought he was something similar to like Corfarion and.
Oh, like a Terminator?
No, like you know how Luther.
Oh yeah.
Like Corfarion and Luther
Yeah, just
are like
augmented.
augmented, yeah. Which he kind of is.
Yeah,
So
but
basically what
differently.
they did, they cloned him
Yeah.
and then just transferred his like skin and his like brain to the clone.
Yeah, but it's like a better version than him. And it has like way better reflexes and is stronger and like knows how to
Yeah.
fight.
So he's like, I would say like you have like a space marine, and then you have like what Corfarion and Luther are, and then it's like this guy.
Well, I could probably be below that too, because we probably have the whatchamacallits right below that, the whatever blacks.
Lucifer Black.
Yeah, the Lucifer blacks are probably right below that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, is a Lucifer Black as good as this guy?
I mean,
he's like
I mean,
augmented.
he's stronger than like the Imperial soldiers, because that we have the scene where he just fucking punches the one in the
Yeah.
face and kills him.
Yeah, who knows? Like, yeah, Lucifer Blacks are probably below that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Then you have people like John Grammaticus who are better than the Lucifer Blacks. Like,
Look, I need power rankings of everything.
every single thing. But we get that whole thing where he wakes up and he's having a dream while he's asleep about being in a cave, and there's like this other thing.
It's like a completely black cave.
Yeah.
And like he's like talking to everyone, and like the people are like, "Shut the fuck up and just keep dreaming."
Yeah, I don't really know. I don't think it was explained very well what that ended up being.
I think those are supposed to be like the dead scalds or skajalds or whatever the hell they're called.
Interesting.
Because their whole thing is, like remembering, like having the dreams and stuff. So that's my guess. I have no idea. Kind of like how like we have like
I thought it was
the
either
wolves, right? I
Yeah.
think that's kind of like their version of that. I don't know.
I thought it was either that or like the demon, something like that.
Yeah, I could see that too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So he wakes up, he's freaking out, and one thing he notices is he's able to speak the language of the Space Marines because they have like 2 different types of language, and he just like naturally knows them.
Yeah.
You know,
But he doesn't even know he's talking in that language.
has no idea.
And so like someone like calls him out on it. He's like, "What?
Yeah.
Sorry guys, I'm about to open this beer." Good thing about video though is I can do this shit.
And you know.
You guys know.
You just know. We get, he's walking around and he finds like Skarskison.
Ah, fucking love Skarsenson.
This book, like whenever I read about him, like this, he's like the comic relief.
He is. I like him.
He is awesome. I'm like, he's literally the first person. Like there are comedians. You have like Torgadon and stuff.
Yeah.
Right? But Skarkison is like the first person. I'm like, this guy's just like stupid, but like amazing at the
Yes.
same time. He is. He is
And
one
it
of my favorite
starts
characters.
off with his name.
Yeah, Skarkison. It's like the writer's plan is like, okay, this guy is just gonna be hilarious.
Yeah.
And the book, this was the funniest book that I've read too. Like
Yeah, it
never
was
seen them.
enjoyable.
I was like, this is kind of funny.
But honestly, that's how I pictured the Space Wolves, though.
Just fucking around.
Yes.
So immediately, Scarcison he is one of the route leaders. So you have like they're just numbered, just like the legions.
Yep.
So it's literally like, not legion, companies.
Yep, companies.
So it's like first company, second company, third company. Like Scarcison is the leader of the fifth, which is the fifth company. You know, it's just like
yeah,
kind of how it is. He has people go off and he takes in Kasper and he's like, okay, you guys go here because he's woken up after so many years.
yeah.
So he's like, well, let's get shit going. And Casper's asking Scarcison all these questions. And he's like, man, you ask a lot of fucking questions.
Yeah, it's funny too. Like at first, like Scarcison, like he's playing like these board games with these guys, and he stops them because he's like not interested in that. And he's like, "Ooh, new guy, I'm interested in you." And he's like, "Okay, you're annoying." And like Widowmaker or whatever comes in, and he's like, "Hey, take care of that guy. He's fucking annoying.
Yeah.
I'm done with him."
So we get like Bear's there. When Wordmake is there.
Yep.
I don't like Wordmake.
I'm very indifferent towards him. Like he was really douchey in Thousand Suns, and here he was just kind of there.
He kind of like I was hoping that he would be evil, but he was not. But he like was a dick also.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I kind of wish we would have got more of his like point
Story.
of view, especially during the Thousand Suns stuff, just because it's like. And here it was just like kind of random. It was like I'm at the Council of Nikeah, and it was didn't really like say like was that like their plan the whole time was just like catch 1,000 suns using magic.
Yeah,
it's just kind of like ha, we're here.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, he's not like a good, well written character. I think he could have used a little bit more. But then so we have. Kasper gets put before the Tra leader, Tras 3.
Yep.
And he is Ogve is his name.
That's a good one.
He's the Jarl.
Yep.
Just like Scarcison is a Jarl. But basically, he gets put there, and what's told of him is he's going to be the Skajald. That's
something
what it's
like
called.
that. The Scald, maybe. If the J silent. I don't know. I can't fucking speak Viking.
You know, I even listened to the audiobook, and I don't remember what it was pronounced as. But he
They just make it up as they go.
Yeah. So basically, what that is, he was under the protection of the previous Jarl, who died during the time he was.
I'm
asleep.
assuming these are the captains.
Yeah, the Jarl's like the captain.
Yep.
He was under the protection of him. Like that person was the one. Like, okay, come in. We're gonna make him a Skavald, right?
Whatever it's called.
And that captain died while he was asleep, and now this new captain's like, wait, why the fuck are you here? But he knew, like he was like, oh yeah, okay, we're gonna make you Skavald. And he's like, okay, what's that? And he's explained to him like he's supposed to take account of the Space Wolves.
Yeah, which honestly, it's like not different than what like his job was before, right? Like, you know, before it was about preserving history. It's kind of the same thing, except he's not allowed to write anything down. Like their whole thing is having to remember all the stories, and like you get all these different point of views of the stories too, which is really interesting. And like, man, that job would kind of fucking suck.
Yeah, he. The only thing I would say is it seems like his work is more limited now because he works solely with the Space Wolves.
Yeah,
but at the same time,
he doesn't really have an option. So
his work previously was also kind of limited, unbeknownst to him.
Yes.
So he ends up like going into space with the Space Wolves. Is like the next thing that happens.
Yeah.
And the second part of the book is really about him doing his job.
It's interesting. Like it talks like several times, like like so and so died in battle, so like they have this like
it's a feast.
Yeah, they have a feast, and like he's like literally the entertainment of telling the stories.
And he tells all of the stories of their like battles and their lives and all this stuff. So we see him do that. So basically, the second part takes place on one planet that's being battled,
Yep.
And they're like alien. They're humans, but they've like implanted themselves in robotic machines, basically.
Yes.
And they go to this like moon structure that was built by them, and that's the first time he gets to tell these accounts because the Astartes go in, they beat the shit out of these dudes, and a few of them die.
Yeah, this is also the time, like, I'm pretty sure this is what he is, like, watching them fight for the first time. You know, he sees them, like, literally, like, ripping, like, the limbs off of, like, one of them. He's like, why the fuck are they doing that? Like, why are they so brutal? And that's, like, when he gets, like, the explanation is, like, we want them to, like, be dead.
Yeah. So there's a few like concepts that happen. I don't know if we really need to go into like specific events.
Right.
But there's a few concepts that happen here. He finds out about the Space Wolves' brutality and why they do that. He finds out that they struggle a lot with the fact that the other legions find them to be like kind of fucked up.
But at the same time, so do like the Imperial soldiers.
Yeah.
Which is who called them there.
Yeah. So the Imperial soldiers were the one that called them to help with these mechanized humans, and they decide to launch a invasion on the planet, which this was really fucking cool.
Yeah.
So the planet, they had surrounded their planet with a giant shell of ice.
Yeah. Fucking
And the Imperials invaded, and they were like, okay, and thousands of Imperial guards died, like just taking the outer layer of certain cities, you know, and that's when the Jarl of the Ogval.
Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah, and he's all like, you guys are fucking idiots. I want complete command of everything. And, you know, but he doesn't tell them they're fucking idiots.
Yeah, he's very strategic. He like makes them like tell him that like
shit's not great.
Yeah, that shit's not great and that he has complete control and he gets full power to do whatever he needs to do.
And he did that on purpose to show Kasper, like, listen, like, we're not animals.
Yeah, like he like made Kasper be there so that he could show him this is like, you know, everyone thinks like we are these fucking, like you said, like animals. And it's like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, like we do things brutally, but everything we do, we have a purpose for. Mm-hmm. And like it talks about this like several times whenever he's watching them fight. And like it talked about how like they destroy like all the shit, but like they didn't destroy the computers for the Mechanicum to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing's just so interesting, like how the Space Wolves operate.
Yeah, they have ideas, but they're not necessarily wrong, and they're very much so like, if I'm gonna do something, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I thought interesting too, like with this scene, like we have that happen. They give control to the Space Wolves, and the commander is like talking to Kasper by himself.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts of the book.
Yeah, and he's like, I've seen 3 legions fight ever. And it was Space Wolves, was it
White Scars?
Was it Sons of Horus?
Mm.
Was it the Angels, maybe?
Maybe it was the
Dark
Blood
Angels? Oh, I was thinking Dark Angels.
Dark Angels? I know we saw the White Scars and Space Wolves. I don't remember the first Legion that he mentioned.
I don't either. But either way, he's like, and like after seeing like the Space Wolves, like, they disgust me.
Well, he has this whole concept of stars. He hates the Astartes.
Yes.
And he's like, humanity should have taken back the stars on their own. And he's also said, I'm not ignorant in the fact that we would still be on Earth if it wasn't for the Astartes.
Right.
But he says the fact that the stars were created means that the Emperor doesn't really have a plan for afterwards. Like, the fact that the Space Wolves exist means, like, the Emperor isn't actually planning to create a beautiful society.
Yeah.
And he brought this point up. He was like, the Emperor creating the Space Wolves means one of 2 things. Either the Emperor is not as unprone to mistakes as we think he is, and he just fucked up, or he created the Space Wolves to stop something that the Space Wolves are needed to kill.
Yes.
And Kasper's like, well, which one do you think it is? And he like, which one would you prefer? And he's like, both of them greatly uncomfort me.
Yes.
And what's amazing is like, both of those answers are true.
Yep, they are.
Like, the Emperor probably messed up. Like, we know that he needed the help of the Chaos Gods.
Yeah.
He wasn't able to do it himself.
And I mean, we know for a fact that there's 2 legions that can definitely be preferred. Like, especially after this book and First Heretic, they're definitely dead.
Yeah.
They're not missing. They are dead.
Yeah. And it's like the Emperor made mistakes. And there's also evil beings out there that the Astartes are needed to kill.
Yeah.
So it's like...
It's specifically the Space Wolves.
It's so cool because this guy's been at war forever. And Kasper makes the point, he's like, I don't think war's ever going to end. He's like, well, then what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
Why are we fighting it? And he just brings out really good points that we've been making this whole time.
Yes.
And finally you see
a human making it in the stories.
A soldier, an Imperial Guardsman, who's like literally talked about he's been in war a long time to make it to where he's at. And he's like, this is fucking fucked.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to see. But when the Jarl gets command, he does the coolest fucking thing ever. He's like, okay, we can't break through the ice with men. So what we're going to do is take this giant moon structure that they created and just throw it into the planet and that'll break the ice. And that's what he fucking does. It was awesome. It was really cool. Like when I read that, I was like, that is brilliant. And then we get this scene of Kasper Hawser going with Longfang, who is a rune priest, down into the combat area. And it was pretty fucking cool. Like
this was really cool.
It was so, I just imagine like their Thunderhawk coming into this crack in the earth, and underneath it is like everything's on fire.
Yep.
It's a city underneath a layer of ice, just burning, and they like land on like the random parts of the city that's falling into this hole that was created by this crater, and they're like fighting just things that are popping out of the buildings.
Yeah, and Kasper Hauser's just like, holy fuck.
It's huge. Like that is so awesome. Like those, the way it was described, it was honestly one of the most well described battles, like battle scenes that I've seen, because it wasn't really a battle. It was more like the scenery of the battle. I'm like, this is why I got into like the miniature game, because I wanted like shit like this.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't had like a battle scene like that like since like Battle for the Abyss.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
Because like there wasn't like any big like battles that like I really cared about in like First Heretic. I mean, I guess Thousand Suns, like when the Space Wolves invaded, but I wasn't really invested in the battle itself. I was more invested in like what the fuck is Magnus doing the whole time.
And this was just like really cool.
Yeah, I'm like, holy fuck, what's happening?
Yeah, it was like it was cool to read about.
The ground's falling apart. Like there's literally
the Thunderhawk.
He watches the Thunderhawk fall down, and like the pilot like trying to like fly it out, but he can't and just dies.
Wow, it was really cool. Yeah, like
he's like trying to escape up this like hill, and he's like running, like hiding behind like buildings and shit as shit's collapsing around him. And he like sees like Space Wars like, don't fucking move or you're going to die.
Yeah, because you get scenes like Isfahan 3 and Isfahan 5, and they're really big battles, but it's just like on a moon or in like an abandoned city.
Yeah, and it's not like it's just, it's different, right? Like it's not like you don't have like the like you have, you know, like the Astartes fighting each other or whatever, and like it's not really about like them fighting the army. It's like the environment itself.
They're trying
that's
to survive,
super interesting. Yeah.
So we get that, and we get his like conversation with Longfang, because Longfang dies in this battle. And this is when I think things get more interesting.
Yes.
So throughout this process, we also get more visions of Kasper Hawser in the past. So one thing that's important to note is in the previous vision, that first vision we had, he goes to the tomb, his colleague Naveed is there, and he's talking about the eyes, and that's when they get kicked out of the tomb, first by Imperial soldiers and then by an Astartes from the Thousand Sons Legion. And so the Astartes kicks him out. You get a really cool scene. This was like
one thing too, like just like before, like when he's talking to the Thousand Sons, the soldier, he's like, "What's your name?" And he tells him Kasper Hawser, and he laughs. And he's like, "Is this a joke?" And it's like, "No." And he's like, "Huh, that's ironic." And like that's like how it ends. It's like, well, what's that mean?
Yeah. And then you have, this scene was like literally from a war movie. Like I was thinking Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah.
Where he's like sitting there with Naveed. They're after this like box in the middle of a war zone. So I thought this was cool. Kasper Hawser spent a lot of his life in war zones. because he's trying to locate artifacts on Terra,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of times it's in the middle of combat.
It's also interesting, like how shitty Terra is.
I was gonna say that too, because this is after unification,
Yes.
and there's wars going on all the time on Terra for people just rebelling, and it justifies this by saying it's just some like old rulers that are their like time is up.
Yeah.
So,
But the thing is, like, if you can't contain your own fucking yard, how are you gonna contain your neighbors?
I get that. Yeah, it's all fucked up. Like even Terra during the, Crusade isn't a picture perfect world.
Yeah, I mean,
of the
fucking
Imperium.
look at Nemesis. They're fucking. We have a custodes on the ship, and their fucking ship gets shot out of the sky.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how like Terra operates as the home world, and it's not a great example of what
Yeah, like I mean, like you have like places like Prospero,
beautiful cities.
except there's fucking man-eating bugs.
Yeah, I feel like they could have taken care of that.
Oh, I agree. Like I feel like the only place that like we haven't even really talked about is like probably Ultramar.
Monarchia.
Monarchia was great at one point.
Monarchia was phenomenal. I used to vacation in Monarchia every fucking summer. But we have the battles that he's going through, and he's been implanted. Him and Naveed have been implanted in this like a guard regiment, and so they're going out protecting him as they go look for this box.
Yep.
And he's kind of like fallen in love a little bit with his handler. The guard handler.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name.
Oh, man. I can't remember her name either.
Her name was the same name as his assistant.
Okay. I'm glad you mentioned that because I was like, is this the same fucking person? Is this
One
different?
of them was a girl.
What the fuck is happening?
And one was a guy.
Okay, I'm glad you said that because like I thought I was crazy for a while. I was like, maybe it was different. I can't remember. She's dead, so whatever.
I went back and looked. I'm like, did the author make a mistake? Is this some chaos fuckery? But I think they just had the same name, and it wasn't explained at
Yeah.
all.
Oh, I'm glad you said that because I thought I was crazy for a bit.
So we get that scene where this old man playing a piano ends up killing her and Naveed.
Yeah, like
As
it
they're
was a
making it
really
through.
cool like setup scene. So it was like they were in this like building, and like one point it's like they called it something else. I mean, it's a piano, but heck, they called it something else.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was called. Clavier.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And finally, like she was like, "Hey, we need to like leave this area or whatever." So they're leaving, and as like they're walking, they see this old man, and he's playing. He's like, "I fucking knew I heard something." And they're like, "Okay, you stop here. We're gonna have the troops come investigate." Like they're just sitting there talking.
Yeah.
And like the dude's just playing it, and he like doesn't he say something or does he just laugh?
He laughs.
Yeah, he laughs and then just
He's playing the Song of Unity.
yeah.
Which was like a funny thing
Yep.
to Kasper. And then Naveed's like, hey, I got you this for your birthday because it was his 40th birthday.
Yes.
And then there was a bomb in the clavier or whatever it's called, and it killed Naveed and the girl. And that really fucked him up because Longfinger asked him if he had ever seen death before.
Yeah.
So he told him that. And then, oh no, that was like earlier on. But then Longfang asked him if he had ever seen something he can't explain.
Yeah, because their whole thing was like, like what type of stories like do you guys want to hear? And he's like, we want stories that are gonna scare us.
Yeah.
Like things like we cannot explain. And he's like, tell me something like that. And he tells him this interesting story with Naveed. And he's video people.
Got it.
You saw it. But so like we have this flashback, he's with Naveed and
they're getting chased down by a bunch of thugs.
Yeah, they were
gave
supposed
them
to like
false
meet
information.
somewhere to like discover like these underground ruins or something. And they're getting like they're about to get mugged basically. So they take off running, and as they're
like Naveed does this thing before they run though, right?
no, they were running, and like as they're running, one of them pulls out a gun, and Naveed says something, and the dude like
dies.
yes, and Naveed's like his like mouth is bleeding. I think he like loses teeth
His
or
teeth
something.
are falling out.
And Casper's like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, so they make it back to their safe house, which is where they're all at in the middle of this like fucked up part of town.
And like Naveed got there before Casper did. Like Casper gets there. He was like pull out this like nice expensive like scotch or whiskey or whatever, and it's gone. And he's like, it's really fucking hot in here.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, Naveed, are you here? Because everyone's supposed to meet there. There's like 5 of them. And then he walks up the stairs. He hears like water running, and he opens up like the bathroom. And like Naveed's in like a hot shower, holding the expensive whiskey. He's like, "You son of a bitch, I want that."
Yeah. So Naveed is like fucked up.
Yes.
Casper's like, "What the fuck is going on?" Naveed's like, "I gotta take you to this place."
And Casper's like pissed too. He's like, "You fucked us so hard. Like we could have all died."
And Naveed's like, "I know.
Yeah.
I know."
The whole time, like Naveed's like, "Yes, I fucked up. I get it.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I fuck things up."
Naveed takes him to the spot saying that Kasper needs to join this group, or at least needs to be like shown this group, because Naveed's been keeping it from him.
Yeah, and it's like he takes him to like a library, is what it's described to me.
It's like a data library where the books light up when you walk past it. And while he's there, he loses Naveed, and Naveed hands him like information about like stuff that Naveed has
like,
seen in the past.
Yeah, it's just like pictures.
And it's
he's
all
like, what
like,
the fuck is this? And their eyes.
Well, it's different archaeological digs or things that they've done, and they come and find like, oh, okay, this all has one thing in common. It's all about the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And Kasper at first is like, this is fucking stupid. Like,
also, when this is all happening, did you at all think of the symbol, the Sons of Horus?
No, I didn't relate that until the end.
I like kept thinking about that. Like I was like,
because of the eye that Horus has. Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, I mean, it's also like Egyptian symbols, the Eye of Horus.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, the whole time I was like, I wonder if this is all related to Horus.
Yeah, and it ended up kind of in a
little bit,
weird
I guess.
way. Yeah, so he sees the eye, and it's like burning. It's like the eye of Sauron, you know, like when Pippin picks up the freaking ball, and he's like, I can't stop looking at it, and he finally does. And there's these figures like running around, and he finally chases one down.
Yeah, he's like, Naveed, what the fuck?
Yeah, and it's just this dude in a cloak, like doing the T pose, is what I thought, with like a sword, an anathema.
Yeah,
and I fucking Casper's character is actually really cool. He's just like, this is stupid. Like, you guys all stop playing fucking stupid cold shit. So he goes and finds Naveed. He's all like chained up to a thing. He's like, Naveed, you fucking idiot. He's surrounded by more cultists. And they're all like, you have to choose Kasper Hawser. And he's like, shut the fuck up.
I don't have to choose shit. I'm taking Naveed and we are out of this place. This is weird.
And then they all start doing like weird, crazy shit. And then they disappear and flop down to the floor. And he's like, well, that was weird. Let's fucking get out of here. But that story ends because that's actually him telling the story to Longfang.
Yeah. And Longfang's like, that's not the scary story you know.
Yeah.
And he's like, yes, it is. And he's like, no, it's not. And then we have, it's Bear, right, that comes? Or is it just Two Sword or whatever the fuck his name was?
Two Sword was the one that saved Casper's life, but Bear does come.
Yeah.
But we get this like moment where Longfang tells him his story.
Oh, right.
And it's like on
right.
Fenris.
This is the one with Braun.
Yeah. This is on Fenris, and he's like, we're hunting, and Casper's really confused. Because like what's happening to Kasper is like he's having like a legitimate visions. Like he's telling the story, and it's visions. So like as he's talking about freeing Naveed, it starts to snow.
Yeah.
And that's Longfang's vision bleeding into his, and then he goes into Longfang's story. So it's literally like he is doing some psycho shit.
Yep.
And he goes into Fenris, and Longfang's hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And
isn't Kasper Hawser like, what the fuck?
Where
are we?
He's super confused.
He's like, shh, we're hunting.
Yeah.
He's like, for what? He's like, you don't know.
And there's these big ass like I was thinking moose almost, like they're fucking huge.
Like a moose, like a wildebeest or some shit.
Like they're massive, but then Longfang's like, keep a look on the tree lines. Kasper was like, why? He's like, we might not be the only ones hunting, which I thought was a really cool line.
Yes.
And, the thing starts charging after them, and Kasper was about to die, and then a giant wolf comes out of nowhere and grabs the thing by the neck.
Yeah.
And Longfang's like, that's the second time he saved your life. He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, that's Braum.
He's like, Braun? Why do I know that name? And then he's like, wait, Braun was the guy that died with me or like one with Fifth.
Yeah, and
And
one
he's
thing
like,
to
I thought
know,
there were no wolves on Fenris.
Yeah, there are no wolves on Fenris. So one thing to know too that's really important, and Longfang said this important thing. He's like, no, there were no wolves until we got here.
Yeah.
That was an important line. One thing that we forgot to mention was Fifth and Brom survived when Bear showed up, and he took them with him. And both of them were changed into Astartes, and Brom didn't survive the process. Fifth did, and he's now known as Godhammer.
Godsmoke.
Godsmoke, that's right. So he is Astartes, and he is a decently important character.
Yeah, he's a
always
badass.
There. Godsmoke's there, yeah.
And he teaches him, like, Kasper Hawser to use an axe, because at one point Kasper's like...
Ask for training.
Yeah, after this battle, actually, he's like, hey, I don't want to be helpless like this again.
Yeah, because he's kind of the reason Longfang died.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess we had to talk about fucking Kasper was in this, like, place he shouldn't have been in, and he gets attacked by the fucking species or whatever, and Longfang shows up, saves him, and so does Two Sword.
Yeah, kind of just how that happens. That's how Longfang dies there. And Kasper had no idea that Longfang was dead, and he's like, what the fuck do you mean? And then Bear shows up. He's like, who are you talking to? We're talking to Longfang. He needs to explain shit to me. And Bear's like, Longfang's dead.
Yeah, he's like, he's been dead for 7 minutes or something like that.
He's like, no. I was just talking to him. We had a whole 12-minute conversation. It was 12 minutes.
Yeah, 12 minutes.
Yeah. And then we get Longfang's rendition, because he does the rendition of Longfang's death, and it's this huge ordeal.
Yeah, it's like really this cool. Like really big feast. Like it was like 2 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
It was like long as fuck.
It was like a few days, yeah. Because he had to take like 10-hour breaks.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was a few days. But
it got interrupted.
He got interrupted because they needed to name who was going to replace Longfang as Rune Priest. And they named this guy was actually really cool.
Yeah, I remember mentioning him before. He's kind of near the bottom, I think.
Oh fuck! What the hell is his name?
Yeah, I'll tell you in a second.
On Hellwinter.
Yep, Hellwinter.
Hellwinter.
Perfect name for Rune Priest.
So honestly. Badass. And he's actually a really cool character. But during the process of them switching over, the Jarl brings out an anathema. It's just a sword used in a ritual.
Right. But Kasper's like, I've seen that.
It's the same one that the people used of that cult.
Yes.
It's like, what's happening? And everyone around Godsmoke says, like, shut the fuck up and sit down. They're doing something important. And I guess he wasn't yelling loud enough for everyone to hear. But all the people around him were like, why are you freaking out? So that's he kind of had like a panic attack on that, and he decides to go meet the Jarl, and that's when Hellwinter appears.
Well, he like goes into the empty room, and he's like starts like looking at them.
Yeah, he goes into the Jarl's room.
That's when Hellwinter shows up, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing here? He's like, I need to see that anathema. Yeah,
and that's when Hellwinter reveals like, you've been manipulated. Somebody's trying to make you think that was the anathema, but it was not.
Yeah.
And that's when we get
some weird shit.
Nakia.
Yeah.
Nakia happens.
Nakia was interesting at this point of view.
It was so good. I was like, okay, it's going to be Nakia 2.0. Not at all.
Very different.
So, pretty much it's the same Nakia, except we get... Hawser gets locked in the room with the Silent Sisters.
And Lehman Russ.
And he can't speak the language anymore. And Lehman Russ reveals to Hawser, he's like... And this is a question that a couple of stars asked him in the past. Why did you come to Fenris?
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know. And he's like, check this out. The reason you can speak our language, there's something up. Like something manipulated you to get here. Something caused all of this to happen.
Yeah.
And he's all like, holy shit, so I'm a spy? I'm not trying to be a spy. And you know, Lehman Russ is like super nice.
Yeah, did not expect that at all.
He was like one of the nicest Primarchs, like way nicer than Magnus.
Yeah, he was fucking nicer than like the captains and shit that's talked to him later. Like Lehman Russ was like a cool dude.
Lehman Russ was like, hey, don't worry about it. I know you're not a spy on purpose. Like we're just trying to get the bottom of it, man. He's like being super chill.
Yeah.
And like as soon as he goes out, like with Kasper Hawser, he's really nice. And then we get out to the Custodes and Typhus and Rodolon of the Blood Angels, and he just fucking rips them all a new one. He's just like, fuck you. Fulgrim shows up, but that's when he introduces them, and all of them know that he's some sort of spy. And they're like, we got to figure out who's doing this. And so they start questioning him and asking him all these things. And saying that somebody basically manipulated him to leave the conservatorium, because he left the conservatorium because he thought it was going to be a part of the administratum.
Yes, and that
And
he
they're
would have
fucked up.
zero control.
Yeah, and they're I agree with that. The administratum is like fucking
Yeah, to
crazy.
give him like flashbacks too of like him like talking to like a senator or something.
Yeah, the person in charge of it.
Yeah, and he was telling him that's basically he's selling them to the administratum.
Yeah, and what it gets revealed here that's really cool is all of them that are there, like Typhus and them, are like actually Typhus too this year.
Yeah,
that was super interesting to me. That Typhus was playing a role, and he was like a good guy.
Yeah, weird.
And Typhus was like, actually, they ended up not turning it over to the administratum. Like, your thing worked. Like, everything was going great, and all the people that you thought were against you were actually with you.
Yeah, he's like, Malcador was like the like guy behind it. Like, he was not gonna let anything happen to it.
And Kasper Hawser was like, that doesn't make any sense. And that's when they're like, you were manipulated to believing like you were fucked, and that's why you left. Somebody at that point in time came in and changed everything for you and did some weird psyker shit. And Kasper's like, oh my god.
What the fuck? My whole life is a lie right now.
And that's when he gets escorted out by Aemon, one of the custodians.
Yep.
Aemon is in Tales of Heresy. He's the main character in Tales of Heresy.
Oh shit! And the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Also, another thing that's important that I thought was interesting was the captain on the planet they go to that Kasper has that talk with, and he's all like, "Oh, these stars are fucked up." That we talked about earlier. He talked about how he fought in the Cobalt Wars, which is where Brennigar fought and got his sword in the Cobalt Wars.
Huh.
Yeah, from Battle for the Abyss. So kind of cool, like making those.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah, so Aemon's escorting him out, and then he gets a really fucking crazy scene where Aemon from the Custodes turns into Aemon from the Thousand Sons when they're walking above the council.
Yeah.
And he's all like, yeah, we did this, we implanted this in you, yada, yada, yada. And that's when Bear shows up and Hellwinter. And they're like, back off, and they start fighting. And this was what I was caught up in. Aemon was all from the Thousand Sons was like, I know your name since I've read it through.
Yeah, his mind.
Yeah,
because he goes through a speech too about like how
names are power.
Yes.
And he was like Aemon, or not Aemon, Hellwinter, and like
stop. Because there is an actual custode there.
Yeah,
it's like frozen.
His name is also Aemon.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's two. There is an Aemon from the Thousand Sons.
Yeah.
So he like freezes him, uses Hellwinter's name. I'm sitting here like, wait, this is way too powerful. Like the Thousand Sons weren't able to do that.
Yeah.
Like I was like, this is crazy. I thought at first it's like this is an author like discretion that just went.
Yeah.
Like there's no way that they can just like know your name and just fuck you up. And it gets explained later why that this person can do that. But that's what I was focused on because when he said Bear's name, nothing happened.
Yeah. Well, I think Bear stopped for like a second, like not even.
Yeah, almost
like he like
confused.
Stuttered.
I bet you he was like
That's
confused.
not my name.
And he starts like fucking going ham.
But yeah, and like we have like this like fight, and then he escapes.
Yeah.
The Thousand Sun guy does.
Which is weird because they're surrounded by Custodes and all these Sisters of Silence, and he just disappears.
Yeah.
And like I'm sitting there like, how the fuck is Aemon from the Thousand Sons? Aemon. He wasn't even like a huge character.
I have a question for you. How much do you think that conflict affected the Emperor's decision?
100%. I think it was a decent amount.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, I think the Emperor would have made the same decision anyway.
Yeah, but that
was the nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
I also think Magnus lying was a big nail in the coffin too.
The Plato story.
Mm-hmm. Like I think it all kind of came together, and the Emperor was like, "This is weird." And just like out of there. But I was like, "Oh my god, this is fucking crazy." I had no idea that all this was happening during the Council of Nicaea. This is like really cool. And then we get the part where they're trying to figure out who infiltrated his mind.
Yeah.
Kasper's mind. So he's having this reoccurring dream. So fucking cool.
Yeah, the dream is really interesting. And like it's how it's written is really cool because it's like we'll have the dream. Wakes up, something happens, he has the dream, wakes up, something
The
happens.
same lines are repeated.
Yes.
It's like oh,
It's
we're in the
almost
dream.
like it's super redundant, but at the same time, it's like
Impactful.
maybe he gets to the next part.
Yes. So like he has this dream about him waking up on Terra. It's like the day before he leaves.
Yeah.
To go to.
He's
Fenris.
about to get like an automatic eye, right?
Yeah.
And that's why he's waking up early.
He's waking up early. He opens the thing. There's Terra. It's really beautiful, and all this stuff is going on, and someone's behind him. So he goes to turn and look, and he can never he always wakes up.
Yeah, he can never see
The person
who it is.
So they start doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Hellwinter teams up with another person, and they try and
It's a Wittermake.
No, it's a different one. So Wordmake's there, but there's three. There's three.
Oh,
people.
right, you're right. I can't remember.
Turns out that third person, I don't remember whose name was.
Didn't last very long.
He went into like the other person's mind that was there on accident.
Yeah.
And it turned him, like it possessed him.
Yeah, it fucked him up.
He turned into this giant wolf, and they were basically in his Kasper's dream on Fenris, and they had to fight this like turned rune priest. It was kind of fucking wild. It was really cool because like there's a scene in there that was really cool where like
was that one Trunk?
Maybe you have Hellwinter, and then you have the other rune priest, and the one rune priest is like sitting there wounded, and he's like, "Listen, Kasper, something got into Hellwinter's mind and turned him into this giant wolf." And Hellwinter's out there like, "Don't listen to him, Kasper. Come to me." And the guy's like, "Fucking listen to me, damn it! The guy's crazy." And he like has this whole story, and then Hellwinter's like, "Everything about that story is true, except he was the one that was affected." And
yeah,
then he starts
reading that, I was like, "Oh fuck!"
Like he's right next to Kasper, he starts turning into this giant wolf, and like it was fucking awesome. But as they kill the wolf and they go out of the dream, he's sitting there prophesizing Horus betraying the Emperor.
Yeah.
He's like, "I saw this. This is what I saw when I opened the door to the guy's mind." And the Space Wolves being the Space Wolves were like,
not possible.
"Don't listen to it." Well, first off, it may be possible. Doesn't matter because it's coming from you who's possessed. And the dude, like, he looked like the normal guy. He was like all fucked up, but his shadow was a wolf.
Yeah.
And that's when Casper's like, "Fuck, we can't trust anything this guy says." So they just kill him. That was a really fucking cool scene.
Yeah.
It was literally like, that is fucking awesome.
Yeah, and the way it was just written too, like the constant back and forth, it was just like, holy shit.
Yeah. And then you have Lehman Russ ordering Kasper in. It's probably be a little bit of a longer one.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm fine with it.
it's weird too, because like this isn't a long book.
There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
It was a good one. Kasper gets ordered to Lehman Russ, who tells him... He doesn't tell him anything. He just starts talking to Kasper, but he's actually talking to Magnus.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, "Brother, I need you to listen."
And Kasper's like, "What are you talking about?" And then he kind of like picks up on what's happening.
Yeah.
And like even Hellwinter's like, "I actually don't know if that would work."
Yeah, but it was really cool because,
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about this in the preview too. Like, Lehman's like, "Listen, the wolves were called. You know how I am. I am not going to not like." He's like, "I'm going to let you know, like, we are coming, and
Just
you
give
need to
yourself
surrender
up.
yourself,
We
or
won't
we
kill
are
you."
going to."
They weren't
going
to kill him.
Yeah.
They were going to just take him prisoner. That was the plan.
Yeah.
Now, we know that didn't get to Magnus because Magnus wasn't the one listening.
But Magnus knew they were coming.
Magnus knew they were coming because he projected himself onto their ship. I don't know whether Magnus received that message.
Either way, Magnus should not have been chilling in his fucking pyramid.
He should have
like,
either fought.
they should all die.
He should
Just
have
JK, I should fight.
Yeah, he should have either fought or not fought. That should have been the deal. But like looking from Magnus's point of view, like it was all Magnus's fault. Like
Yeah.
at the end of this day, like we went into the Thousand Suns, Magnus didn't do anything wrong, and I'm coming out like this entire story was Magnus's fault.
Yeah.
Like it was all him.
Yeah, like, I've heard like several things how like Magnus did nothing wrong,
It was literally
and like
all
I
Magnus.
just don't believe it anymore.
Lehman
It's not
Russ-
that he did anything wrong per se,
Lehman Russ didn't do anything
but he
wrong.
did it to himself.
Lehman Russ was kind of played, but not like
Yeah.
like he thought he was doing okay, but he was played.
Yeah.
Magnus made decisions that
Lehman
should've
at least
been.
like did his job,
Yeah.
right? Like, yes, he was sent to Prospero, but he tried to warn them, like, look, just surrender yourself. Like, I don't want to do this, but I will.
And so we get Lehman trying to warn Magnus because the order came in, and Lehman just said, now we have to go burn Prospero.
And Prospero burned.
Yeah. So one thing I want to talk about real quick before we get into the burning of Prospero, this whole thing is told from Kasper Hawser telling it after the battle. He is reciting the battle like you would. The second thing I want to talk about is in the beginning of his recitation, he talks about how there were remembrancers.
Yes.
On the ship, and we know that is Lumel and
fuck, I can't remember the chick's name.
Her name, yeah. And
but they also talk about how they stopped him and questioned him.
Yeah, and the guy Kasper's like, I don't know what happened to him. We know from Graham.
I was saying we know from Graham McNeil that we see Lemuel again.
Yeah, we see
Lemuel not dead.
At least a few books is what he said. Yeah. So it should be interesting. But then Kasper goes into the recitation of the battle for Prospero. And the first half of this it's exactly what you would expect. It was the battle. It was what was described in A Thousand Suns.
Although we didn't get like honestly, I was expecting to see like Watermake die again or whatever, but we had a completely different. Like we had Kasper's story.
Yeah,
it wasn't the Space Wolves story. It was Kasper's.
This is one of the things too that I think was interesting, especially when I was reading this part. I realized like there were a lot of pieces missing.
Yes.
We didn't even see the flesh change.
No.
Or any of that. And we didn't see the Worgen. And I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, like this whole idea of telling the story and that's your memory leads to a lot of manipulation of the past.
Yeah.
And throughout this entire book, you know, you have Kasper retelling the story, but he doesn't even remember his own past.
Yeah.
And it really was a big thing to me where I'm like, okay, the Space Wolves might be doing something wrong here. Like the fact that they don't allow recordings. They don't allow that. Like, it could really fuck them up.
But at the same time, I think that is also used to make sure that, like, you kind of keep the fantasy of no wolves being on Fenris. If that makes sense. Like, I think it's to, like, hide their flaw.
Sure, it's to hide a lot of stuff. Because they're actually a relatively secretive legion.
Yeah. No, they're no Alpha Legion, but they're pretty close.
Yeah. And I'm just saying there was a lot of stuff missed. That I think the Thousand Suns, like I definitely think the Worgen happened. I definitely think the flesh change happened. The fact that it wasn't even talked about in this book was like there was a lot missed out on. But we also know that Kasper was busy.
He was very busy.
Yeah, so we get like definitely the coolest scene in the book.
Yeah,
by far was the end. The last 20 pages were like
so we finally get the rest of
his dream.
Yes, so like Kasper, like the way he's like telling this, like, you know, I've seen all your guys' battle, but I want to talk about my story.
Yeah.
In this, like, this is my memory, and like they are in this. Is it the same library or whatever that one soldier was in that Watermate came in and was like, "Where's Armin?"
Yeah.
Cool. I thought that too, but like they explore that some more. Like they go down like this hallway, and that's when we have his like story, and he talks about like he's having his dream, and he turns around, and who does he fucking see, Gavin?
He sees fucking Horus.
Horus fucking Lupercal. Though I did not expect that one.
That was mind blowing at that. So in my mind, what I actually thought was was what happened. Like my prediction was going to be Naveed.
That's who I was thinking too.
And it was Horus. But as soon as I saw Horus, one thing stood out from that conversation to me, which was really interesting. Horus was talking. He had the anathema.
Yep.
And he was like, I've grown really interested in you. A year from now, I will die to this anathema. And I'm like, wait. What is he talking about? So obviously this is Horus from the future.
Yep.
Horus has already been killed by the anathema, from the Battle of Prospero.
Yes.
Does he die again? He said a year or so from the Battle of Prospero. So maybe, Yeah. So
Yeah.
like, I don't know if that was just like a mistake.
Fucking Horus just keeps dying, and every
I
time
don't
he
know.
dies, he comes back more chaos fucked.
I don't know if he dies again. It's really weird when he described that. But he was just basically saying how he had this like huge interest in Kasper, and how he had planned his entire life.
Yeah.
And then you get this huge reveal where he's like, "Who are you really?" And he starts taking off his face, and it's Aemon from the Thousand Sons. Then it's Naveed.
Yeah.
And Casper's like, "Oh, Naveed was the face I saw."
Naveed.
Yeah. And he's like, "How long were you Naveed?" And this guy was like, "The whole time."
Yeah, he's like, there's no way. Like, it had to have been like
His
X amount of points. Like, nope,
his
the
enti-
whole time.
His entire life was controlled by whatever this thing is. And it kind of gets revealed that it is a demon. And the Space Wolves come in to fight it. But basically, what we know from this is like this demon infiltrated Kasper Hawser, and like not only that, used him to start the conflict between the Thousand Sons and Space Wolves.
Yeah.
Because at the Council on Ikea, he disguised himself as Aemon.
Yeah, as a Thousand Son.
Yeah, making the Space Wolves believe that the Thousand Sons planted Kasper Hawser in their legion as a spy.
Yeah.
When in all reality, they had no idea about Kasper Hawser.
None.
And like, that's Zinch. That is like a fucking Zinch from like Zinch fucked the Thousand Sons and Space Wolves. And it was awesome.
Yeah, and like the whole like fight too, like, because we go back to the name thing, like he's fighting Godsmoke, and at first he like calls him Godsmoke, like he only stops a little bit, but he can keep fighting. It's like, oh wait, fifth, and he just fucking like stops, and then fucking Bear comes,
Yeah,
and he calls him Bear, and Bear's like, fuck that, that's not my name.
Yeah,
and fucking they end up killing him, and then like
they kill him with some dreadnoughts, and then the Sisters of Silence come in and just fuck this guy's life up because there's like 10 of them, so he's like nulled out. He ends up killing though the Jarl. He does kill.
Yeah.
Olvin or whatever.
Whatever the fuck it was.
He kills him. But yeah, it was like a huge thing where like this dude has been compromised literally by chaos. Like they implanted him to be a chaos agent. He had no idea.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
And it wasn't the Thousand Sons. It wasn't the Space Wolves. It wasn't. Chaos. It was literally just chaos. It was Zinch like going around and disguising himself as mortals, completely controlling this guy's life.
Fucking nuts.
And yeah, that was like a huge reveal. That was the coolest part of the story.
I really love though, like after this happened, like Casper's like, "Why didn't Bear stop?"
This was actually my favorite
like,
scene.
Because you haven't said his name right this entire time. And he's like, "What?" And he's like, "His name is Bjorn." And
Bjorn.
Yeah, Bjorn. And he's like, "What?"
Yeah. So this is actually pretty crazy. So first off, when you told me Bjorn was in here, I was like literally trying to guess who it was, and I didn't know who it was until the name wasn't working. I was like, that's because his name's not Bear. It's Bjorn. Holy shit. And I was sitting there like looking through the characters.
And it makes sense to me, like when he told me that it was Bjorn, was the fell-handed? Because he lost a hand.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that conversation too. So I really thought it was Hellwinter. I thought it was going to be Hellwinter. But of course it was Bear. Bear's like huge comic relief too, though, this whole thing. He's like, fuck you, I don't really like you or whatever. But he gets his arm chopped off because the demon spreads like this demon fire up his arm.
And Kasper cuts it off.
Yeah, because he doesn't want it to spread.
Yeah.
So he's the fell-handed. This is fell fire.
Yeah.
And he ends up getting an augment. That's pretty crazy. I don't remember. I think it's like claws or whatever.
Hell yeah.
And what's interesting, he makes this line. He's like, it's better than the alternative. And Casper's like, what's that? And he's like pointing at the dreadnoughts. He's like, who would want to live forever like that?
Oh yeah, and he becomes one.
He becomes a dreadnought. So Bjorn is in the 40K universe is the oldest Astartes. There's some debates, especially a Ward Bear dreadnought that I talked about. But like, as far as we know, Bjorn literally has lived forever.
Yeah,
is the oldest Astartes. Was in a dreadnought. Becomes the fell-handed. Like everything about his character in this book is like a complete prelude to his character down the road. And you can buy his model, his dreadnought model. He's got like these big, huge fell claws.
Speaking of old Astartes, guess who we see in the next book in one of the short stories?
Loken.
No.
Who?
Acton Cruz.
Acton. Fuck yeah.
That old motherfucker. Yeah,
All right,
we get to see him again.
For that. So the book ends with that whole him and Lehman Russ.
Fuck. It's already an hour 14, but I want to have this conversation.
Let's do it.
So we have the conversation with Lehman Russ, right?
Mm-hmm.
He talks to him. He's going to go to sleep
mm-hmm.
because he wants to, he knows he's corrupted,
mm-hmm.
whatever. And he has the conversation with Lehman where he's like, they talk about the no wolves on Fenris.
To go find out.
Yep. What do you think they are?
Yeah, I mean, I think what Longfang was saying made a lot of sense. Like, there were no wolves on Fenris until we got here.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like a spirit thing. It
Yeah.
was like that the dead Astartes or sleeping Astartes even become the wolves.
Yeah. Yeah, for whatever reason, I forgot that Bronn, tried to go through the process. I thought he died before.
Mm-mm.
So knowing that he, Ellis was going through the process, it makes more sense to me now that that's why he was one of the wolves that we saw.
He,
I just love the scene there, when they talk about, he's, walks into this tree line, and there's just thousands of eyes staring at him.
Well, you get the kind of thing, too, where, he's walking, and then he starts running, and then he pulls his, wolf pelt over and closer. I think that was supposed to symbolize, he's, turning into a wolf as he goes into the woods.
I can see that.
He pulls his, wolf pelt tighter around his skin to where it literally is, where he was, wearing it like a second skin.
Yeah.
And I think that's, him, turning into...
So do you think he's dead?
No, I don't think he's dead.
Because I, honestly, I imagine him just, going back to, that cave or whatever.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they,
If this is the end of Kasper Hawser?
If, Lehman Russ decided the best way to do this is to cut your thread because of everything that's happened, and that's just, how we saw him off. But I think he's in the cave. Lehman Russ has a lot of foreshadowing at the end where he's like, there's going to be a time where I'm not there to lead him, and we know that happens.
Yes.
And he said, you better tell the stories, and I'm pretty sure that happens too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know if Kasper comes back or not, but I do know there is a lot, especially when Lehman Russ leaves, regarding, the story.
Yeah, I know there's, an attack on Fenris by somebody else.
I don't know. I know, when Lehman Russ leaves, he...
Or maybe... So I know there's a book coming out that's called...
The Wolf Time.
Yes, The Wolf Time. And apparently, there's, a quote from Lehman Russ saying that, So, this is all speculation, of course, in the 40K universe, but,
Super
Lehman
spoiler.
Russ is supposed to, return for the Wolf Time.
Doubt it. Oh, yeah, that's true. And, the book's coming out Wolf Time. He's not coming back.
Yeah.
There's this big conspiracy, he's coming back for this book. That's not true. And we
Although we have Gilliman back.
Well, we kind of know that he's not coming back because this book is actually set as a prequel to some other books.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and Lehman Russ isn't back in the other books. So unless he comes back and hides, you know what I mean? Yeah, he's supposed to come back. Basically, when Lehman Russ disappears, they're just having a feast. And then he goes kind of crazy and has this crazy psychic vision. He's like, I gotta go. That's literally what happens to Lehman Russ.
Fair enough.
And he says, I'll be back in the Wolf Time. And then bails. And then no one has seen him. They went and searched for him. And they found his armor and the Eye of Terror. Terror.
You said it right the first time.
Yeah. Well, I thought I said Terra, but...
No, you had an extra R just in case.
Terror.
Yeah.
Oh, our Terror.
So since you didn't have the books finished last time, we didn't have book rankings or ratings.
This is rough. It's man. I'd say this one is as good as around the same part as Fallen Angels. Maybe above Fallen Angels.
You rated it 7 or 8.
Yeah.
As far as personal ranking, what do you think is importance to the
Oh, it's crazy important. I was literally reading this. I was like, what would be the coolest fucking thing if they did a movie series, like a 3-part movie with Prospero Burns and Thousand Suns, like switching between.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be really
That'd be
cool.
sick. Because it's just
hey,
enough
Warhammer
characters.
Plus, listen.
You can make just like 6 hours. It does, like, I know it's a lot of animation, but like 6 hours.
All right,
just
look,
like
fuck
movie,
half
movie,
of like
movie.
the shit on Disney Plus is probably animation. Come on, you guys.
Clone Wars level animation.
Yeah.
Like, you can make that happen. 6 hours of it. It would be so sick to get like, it's all one story, right? And it's like it transfers back and forth between Ariman,
like
Kasper
each
Hawser,
episode, like one episode's Thousand Sun point of view, the other. Next
I wouldn't even do that.
I
I do it all chronologically.
Okay.
Yeah, so just literally take the books and combine them into one and figure out all the chronological stuff. It's like while Nike is happening, have both the Thousand Suns Nike and the Nike happening there.
That'd be cool.
Like, could you imagine
Nike
like
is such an interesting thing by itself.
Could you imagine like seeing Eamon with Magnus, and then the next scene he's like up there, and you're like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, that's fair.
And then you kind of get it in the end, and you're like, holy shit, this is all crazy. It's all Zinch. She's like, this is all Zinch's fault. This is all Magnus's fault for being an idiot. Really good. It'd be so cool. I think it'd just be awesome.
I agree. So, Born to the Heresy, what's your number?
I mean, this is very important to the Heresy. The same as Thousand Suns.
So 10?
Yeah, it's a 10. Yeah.
Okay. I think personal ranking, I'd put a 7. Importance to the Heresy,
I'm right there with you.
probably a 9. Because
No,
I think just the part of Ikea is just so important because it's
Yes.
what, like, I think it's what really turned the Space Wolves.
You can have so you can read Thousand Suns and that's fine. You can technically skip this book, but this book tells you that they weren't
Justifies the Space Wolves.
Exactly. This is the Space Wolf justification book. Like, if you just read the Thousand Suns, you're gonna have a very skewed. Like, when we got done reading, we were like, "Fuck Lehman Russ." We were like,
what a dick.
fucking asshole. That's not what happened at all.
Yeah, and hearing just about how like surgical they are is just so interesting.
Yeah,
because we keep hearing about how they're barbarians and they're really not.
Mm-hmm. I would like to see more on the whole why the Space Wolves were so adamant about destroying that library.
Yes, that is true.
That's the one thing in these two books that really throw me off. Because it really, like, this book didn't even tell me that Lehman Russ hated Magnus.
When we talked to Graham, like, he talked about, like, if he wrote this book, like he was originally supposed to, they would have been
more savage.
So maybe that was just his interpretation at the time.
And maybe, too, like, the idea of destroying the library was like, kill it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe that was it. It was just kind of the concept. Or maybe at that point he already, like, we knew that Lehman Russ knew about Kasper Hawser.
Yeah, true.
So maybe he was like, fuck Magnus. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, guys,
long one.
We should end here. Yeah. So now that we're doing video, honestly, they might go a little longer now, just because
this was a long book. It was a short book.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
Really cool.
And I mean, as I talked about 2 weeks ago, the next book is going to be a 3-parter because there's no way. I think there's 9 short stories.
Yeah.
And I mean, we struggled with 6 or 7 last time, so we're gonna have to make it a 3-parter. As always, we can be contacted at our email, which is theheresielodge@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at HeresyLodge. And you can find us on the fucking YouTube, boys, ladies, everything in between. Yeah. We are the Heresy Lodge on there. We have our interview with Graham McNeil, so you can see our ugly fucking mugs and Graham's very shiny bald head.
Yeah.
And then now you can see us, and I look like a chubby little man, and we have a giraffe over here. So
give us your feedback too. Like if we need to fix the video quality or camera angle. I know it's kind of weird. It's like right on me.
Yeah, we're just kind of using a webcam that's on my monitor. Don't know how this looks.
Yeah, we'll figure it out though.
Yeah, give us feedback. We learn from you guys. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great weekend, or whenever you hear this, have a great week. And we will be back next week with our preview for Age of Darkness.
See you then.
Yep. See you guys.